Well, my first auditioning experience was for Travis Ammons for something called The Eyes Have It. That may not be that may be the first or the second name. I'm not sure. He changed it. So I went in to audition for Travis, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that I loved acting. A friend, we have a mutual friend, and just went in auditioned for him, and it was really easy and cool because Travis is cool, and I got the part. So let's see, the part was for the makeup lady. I'm trying to think. I did two films for him, so Bonnie, the makeup lady, and this might have been the second film though, and also AKA the Screamer. I think that was the second film. So what the first part was, I can't remember. But it was a good experience. Like, anyway, I'm done.
My first auditioning experience, how about we not talk about it? But since you asked, okay, let me tell you what happened. You know, I write, I don't read. And I know that sounds funny, but I've always struggled with reading out loud to other people. And so I show up to my first audition and it's a cold read. And I pick up the paper and I'm looking at it and I'm trying to appropriately do the cold read, which is looking down and looking up and looking down and looking up, and then you make the character come alive. Oh no, that didn't work for me because it was more like I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I messed up. Can I? I'm sorry. And I was so embarrassed, and I just had to tiptoe out like I was at church with my finger up, man. It was embarrassing.
My God. Okay, so before I even took acting classes, I was super afraid of auditioning. It was like interviews for me for like regular jobs, you know? Um, I would freak out. I would overthink it, especially because I wasn't sure what they expected, or, what they expected of me, what, to expect of them. I didn't even know what a slate was. I didn't know what cold reading was. So I definitely would go in there with like no clue, totally clueless. So I remember a few years ago when my son was like maybe 2 years old. I went to an audition for the Art Institute of Houston, where it's not where it's at now, which is on 59. It used to be at this other location. Well, I went there and I auditioned for a short film that they were going to have that's based kind of on like Thelma and Louise. It was horrible, y'all. It was horrible. I was like reading off of the script, like just straight up reading. I was not like with any type of tone or emotion or anything. I was completely clueless. So that was my auditioning experience. And when I took classes, I'm prepared now. I'm just like, I know what you need. I know what I want. And I look at the script and I just play with it. And another thing is read it out loud. Please don't do it in your head, because once you go over there and you do it, it's going to come out totally different. So read out loud.
My first audition was a nightmare. Walked in there, was a panel of about 4 or 5 guys. They judge you on how you walked in, how you smiled, how you slated, personality, nightmare.
Well, my first auditioning experience was a long time ago when I was in elementary school, and I tried to get the lead in a musical that all the girls wanted. And guess what? I got it. I hit that high note, and I got that part. So that was my first audition. And I always had confidence in singing and really didn't know anything about acting until that play. My first professional audition was with a guy named Rico Edwards for a TV series called Paying Dues. And he met me someplace at Starbucks, I think, and had his camera, gave me the sides, and I read them and got the part. And it was playing the mayor of Houston, a fictional mayor, and it was great. I felt so thrilled. Thereafter, of course, it was much harder to audition and get a part. I was very nervous many times before I'd go up in front of people, sitting at a table with a camera pointed at me and saying, action. And I would do my part as I practiced it and do my best. And I was always nervous. And I was always afraid I'd forget my lines, but so far I've been.
All right. My first auditioning experience. Let's see. I was looking online and I ended up coming across something for open auditions, an open casting call, I guess I should say, for a zombie movie. And at this time, here I am, no experience, no training whatsoever, just thinking I'm a natural. So I was a nervous wreck, but I signed up for it anyway. And I didn't really tell anybody about it. I kept it quiet, you know what I'm saying? So I went by myself. But at the time I got there, I was a nervous wreck. I was pretty scared. I almost talked myself out of going in because when I pulled up, it was a huge building. There's a lot of cars in the parking lot. I didn't know what to expect. So anyway, I get in there and I walk into the room to sign in and everything like that. And I'm looking, I see pictures on the wall of, celebrities. I see like a movie title with like, names of roles and who they got already. And I see a table full of scripts and everything to read the sides, lines and everything. And I'm just nervous. I'm real nervous. And I hear, there's somebody else in front of me auditioning. And, I'm thinking like, man, I think they're doing a good job. I don't know what's going to happen here, but, I sucked it up. You know what I'm saying? I just took a second to meditate, think about it for a second, and I went in there and I just started reading the lines. I was looking at it, and it was kind of crazy because it was like I say, it was a zombie movie, so it was like the zombies were creeping up on us. We were running. The zombies were creeping up on us, and they're coming down the hallway, and it's like, I know I made a fool of myself. I'm yelling, I'm screaming like, nah, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like I did a good job after all was said and done. The casting director at the time, he was happy with the work. He was like, I can tell, there's not much experience, but I can tell you really got something. And he ended up giving me the right avenue and the platforms to find trainers, to find, another acting coach, to find everything I needed, like, a photographer for headshots. He just set me up for the perfect plan, and, I just took it and ran with it. He gave me some homework assignments, and man, I just went home and I just learned everything I could, and I came back and I did what I had to do.
There's a couple of answers for that one. The money or the lack of money is stressful because here you're working on your craft and are a professional and not getting paid sucks. But people do it because they love it. And also working with shitty directors. And they're out there. Like I had this director tell me, if somebody comes to me and wants your part and they can do a better job than you, I'm going to give it to them. Well, how good do you think that makes you feel? And also, the other members of the cast, they're used to working with you. And then, so it could be like, at any second, anybody can come and go, or no loyalty. That's kind of hard to deal with.
Stressful part about being an actor, the auditioning piece in itself. Because when you cast for a role, you typically send your demo reel. And then they'll get back with you and they say, hey, well, can you go ahead and look at the sides and do a video audition? And I'm thinking, great, let's do that. But the ones that's stressful is when you do the demo reel, then the video audition, and they say, why don't you come on Saturday and do a live audition? And I'm going, are you kidding me? How much? You gonna pay for this role? Oh, it's unpaid. You got to be crazy. Are you out of your mind? You gonna all of that and you ain't gonna pay me? You want me to drive across Texas to do an unpaid gig that I auditioned 15 times for?
How I deal with anxiety, I just did it. I take a deep breath and I stay focused. I stay in the moment.
I want to say auditioning, going to callbacks and then not booking the gig. I want to say that's the most stressful part. But you just got to deal a lot with rejection, and you got to be okay with it. Like, they may not have said to you yes this time, but maybe months later they're going to hit you back up for something else that you do fit. You just didn't fit the role this time, or you didn't fit with the rest of the characters, because it's like a whole big thing. So definitely I would say that that's the most stressful part about being an actor. And also that you don't get paid for everything, so be open to that too, you know, especially when you're getting started in the industry. You have to do a lot of stuff that's not paid, because you want to get experience, you want to meet people, networking, and it does help out as far as like practice. Like, let's say you can't afford to go to classes. I think that going to auditions and at least doing stuff, you know, even if it's unpaid, it gets you that practice that you need, that you can't afford to go to classes. It's basically the same thing that you're going to be doing, trust me. And do it, because you need it. You need the clips for your demo reels. You need to add to your resume, and it keeps you up on your toes.
The most stressful part for me are video auditions where I have to prepare at home and then send them off in a timely manner. I'm just not very technically advanced, and so I'm always struggling to get them done, get somebody to film me, or as I'm doing now with a laptop and trying to get them to upload. It's just very stressful to me to try to deal with the technology. A few times I've paid someone who's a professional with the right lights, and they made me look good, and really it hasn't made any difference. I've gotten them on my own with just some poor phone filming, as well as the more professional ones that I paid for. But definitely, the technology is stressful to me.
The most stressful part about being an actor, man, I would say I would say dealing with rejection, being told no. It's because, I mean, it's gonna happen. It's inevitable. It's Everybody's gonna go through it. You will be told no, just because it might not be something you did. It might not be something that you're doing wrong. It's just reasons for it. But I say it's because nobody wants to be told no. If you apply for a job or submit to a gig, you obviously want that gig, because you're not going to submit to it if you didn't want to work it. So I guess the biggest stress in that involved is thinking about how bad you want something and then being told no. And it's a big letdown. But you have to learn. It took me a while to learn that you're not going to even hear back sometimes from, auditions and casting directors and things like that. And for a while, like, it used to bother me, but I realized, like, there's nothing you can do about it. Communication is hard for some people, and some people it's easier for. But I guess that's how I dealt with it. I deal with that stress by just giving it up and letting it go, because it's not in my hand. It's in the universe now. I can't control anything, so I can.
My first acting gig was as a little guy. I wrote a skit with me and my brother, and we did it for the church. It went over like gangbusters. We were hooked ever since.
The acting for non-actors class, which was a play that we did, that we performed in class. That was really my first gig. And then, which was really cool. We did it in the school, and it was a play. It was interesting because you had a character, and then other actors played the same characters, and then we divided the play up. So.
My first acting gig? Oh my goodness. You know, I was only trying to be an extra for a reality TV show. And I actually knew the people that were doing the reality show, the directors and the producers, because my son was on that show as well. So they knew me as Dad, and they called me Dad. And they had a scheduling mix-up. The person that they were using for this host for this award ceremony that they were doing, he didn't show up. So they were scrambling trying to find somebody. And first they picked this guy who, I mean, he had the look, he was, fit, and, he was good looking with his blonde hair and his smooth skin, and he was skinny, and he had it all together. And I'm thinking to myself, they wouldn't pick me because I'm a man, big man. They don't want no fat guy being the host of their show. But then, about 5 minutes later, they came over there and the director said, Daddy, you're it. He can't do it because he's under 18. I'm like, oh my God. And I nearly freaked out. And so they pulled me in and they changed my wardrobe and they dressed me up real good in a nice sport jacket and a shirt and tie, and they gave me my lines, and I went up there and I nailed it. And it was an oxygen show. Now, how do you like that?
The first professional acting gig was for Rico Edwards in the TV series. And I was so excited. I was told to bring several pieces of wardrobe to fit the character, had all my lines done. I even stopped at the hairdresser and had my hair put up so I'd look more like a mayor instead of, just me. So I got there and, of course, waited, met some people on the set, talked, and kept getting hotter and hotter because, of course, they always turn the air conditioning off because of the sound guy not hearing the actors. And then I finally got my chance, and it was a beautiful office, high-rise office, and I was playing the mayor, so everything was just very elegant. I had to remember my lines and um, cross and hit my marks and look at the right sight lines for additional takes and over-the-shoulder shots, and it was great. I had the time of my life. Just so much fun to create a character and then to actually get up there and film it and to know it's going to be part of a bigger thing. And so that was my first professional acting job.
Okay, my first acting gig. I guess it almost came. It almost was like 3 gigs came at once. I got accepted to my first 3 jobs all within the first week, like back to back to back. So my very first one was just a background role. I drove all the way to Austin. It was pretty live. It was like my very first experience. I felt awesome just being on camera, being able to look and see, main characters do their lines, and it was just my very first experience being on camera and just being on set and seeing everything. And even though that was just a background role, I just knew it was just the beginning of more. And so the next gig was booked for pretty much the next day. And that was a featured role, a featured background role, where I was actually interacting and had like a quick line or two with the main character. And like that was just awesome because it was unscripted and they just gave me a little line to say, and it made the movie. So you know what I'm saying, that was like my first line, my first speaking role, and you know, I appreciate that, you know. And then I guess 2 or 3 days later, I started filming another movie, and this one it was only two characters, me and another woman. So I mean, I felt like I was the main character, but you know, me and another woman, I played a character where I ended up going to jail for a little while, hid some money somewhere. This woman now lives where the money is hidden. So now I'm trying to plot and scheme a way to get my money back without this lady knowing. But I feel like she knows, so I end up kidnapping her. You'll check it out one day. But man, it just came all at once, man. Them first acting experiences was just back to back, and it was just like a step up each time. And I still do background roles. I still do little extra stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just to keep it going, you know.
Okay, funny story with this. So I was going to an audition for a short film called No Loyalty, No Loss. And I had just gotten off work and I was running late, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go because the audition was at this time. But anyways, I was like, nah, I'm just gonna go. So I ended up going, and they were already picking everything up. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm here for the auditions. I'm sorry, I'm running late or whatever. But don't be late ever, okay? That was just the first time. I was very new at this. And he let me audition, so I ended up booking it. And I actually, during the time that he sent out the scripts and we were rehearsing and all that, I got booked for a gig out in New Orleans for background talent for a movie that's now airing in Netflix. It's called When We First Met. And while I was there, you know, you get a lot of downtime, and they send you to holding, and you're in this holding tent, and I would just practice. Like it was my very first gig, so I was like super excited, and I was like, I'm gonna learn this, I want to know this. So I read it through the whole 4 days that I was on set. During holding time, I went through everything. So whenever I went to the actual shoot day, the films, like I was on it. I was just like, I knew everything. And then once you know everything, you get to play with it a little bit more. It's just like dancing, you know, like when you're learning the steps, you're gonna be like stiff, you're not gonna be doing it right. But once you get the steps and you get it on point, then you add your flavor, you do your freestyle, you do however you want. So acting is kind of like that, you know. You practice your lines, you get familiar with the character, try to relate, because like an acting coach said once, at one point in your life, you once said these words. So just kind of relate.
Now remember one thing. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Meaning, pace yourself, don't burn yourself out, okay? Have fun with it, entertain, and I'll see you on set.